Hello and welcome to my channel. My name is Steve, and on here I review genre films, mostly in the horror, thriller, sci-fi, maybe occasionally fantasy, or something that just falls into the category of genre, especially certain cult films that I've grown up with. But you'll find all that and more on this channel. So kicking off, we're starting with Wolfman, which is Leigh Whannell's new film. I caught this last Saturday with a few friends. Now, I'm personally quite a big Leigh Whannell fan, as well as James Wan, ever since they exploded onto the scene with the now infamous Saw, which led to the Saw franchise. I did quite like Upgrade, although I think some people liked it a lot more than me. But where I think he really has made his stamp is with The Invisible Man. I think that's his best film to date, personally. And I think some of us were hoping for a real sort of, not return to form, but something along the same lines in terms of quality. Now, while I feel this did fall a little short, this is nowhere near the clunker that a lot of people seem to think this is. But again, it's subjective, each to their own. Very loosely based on the original 1941 classic, The Wolfman, this is Leigh Whannell and co-writer Corbett Tuck's modern update, featuring the excellent Christopher Abbott as a struggling writer who we see at the beginning of the film portrayed as a young boy back around the mid-90s, I think specifically 1995. The excellent opening 10 minutes is of him and his somewhat volatile, overly protective father out hunting in the woods when he spots what we know to be the Wolfman in the scope of his rifle, taking retreat in a sort of vantage point in the forest. He and his dad sit there while we can hear the sounds of what we know to be the Wolfman circling around, as well as attacking a nearby animal of which they find the remains of. I thought this sequence was excellent because one thing Leigh Whannell and James Wan are really good at is establishing tension and mood. And the fact, as they say, what you don't see is often scarier because your mind fills in the blanks. I felt this pretty much did it here. Kudos as well to the child actor because he looks to me exactly like what a young Christopher Abbott would look like. Excellent choice of casting. We fast forward to the present day, and Christopher Abbott's character now has a family of his own, a young wife and a young daughter. He's desperately trying not to repeat the sins of the father by being as volatile and angry to his young daughter as his late father was to him. He has this running, I'll say joke, for want of a better word, where he gets her to put her hand on his forehead. He asks her to tell him what he's thinking, and she usually says something along the lines of, "I'm daddy's favourite girl," something like that. So it's obvious that his character is trying to have more of an even keel of a relationship with his daughter. But there is some estrangement with the wife, who is a busy journalist. And as she says in one scene, that she's not as close with her daughter as he is, and it's something she wishes she could be. Upon receiving the news that his father has now been presumed dead, and the cabin where he grew up is now his, and he needs to clear all the belongings out, he decides this is an opportune moment to take his wife and daughter on a trip, hoping this will create more of a bond between the three of them, whilst also giving his wife a chance to relax. As he says, you can always work remotely. We, of course, as the audience, know that this isn't going to go well at all, but of course they don't know that. Looking at some of the criticisms of the film, I can understand people's frustration, wishing that there was something a bit more to it, that it had, quote unquote, a bit more bite. Whilst this isn't going to revolutionise the werewolf genre anytime soon, if you add up how many good or great werewolf films out there, and to my mind, the only two great films are American Werewolf in London and The Howling, and everything else is kind of either good or satisfactory or just downright rubbish. Whilst this isn't a masterpiece by any stretch, I think this is more than a good enough addition to the canon of werewolf films out there. Regarding the transformation effects, I actually like the approach that Whannell took here. Apparently he said that he realised some people were probably not going to like the way he went as far as creature design, but I think he perfectly fits the story. I was hoping that they wouldn't go too far as turning him into an actual wolf, or as much of a wolf-like creature as possible, and I feel the end result definitely feels more like a hybrid, how I would imagined this character would look. I thought the cinematography too was excellent, especially as a lot of this is shot at night, and when we see the vision from Blake's character as he's starting to transform, I found that really effective as well as visually immersive. The performances across the board, bearing in mind this is really a three-hander, are all pretty strong. Christopher Abbott, who I've only seen in a couple of films, which I'll also be covering on this channel at a later date, which are Piercings and Sanctuary. As soon as I saw him being cast in this film, I knew that at the very least he would look the part. The dark, brooding eyes and hair almost reminds me of something akin to David Norton mixed with a bit of Benicio del Toro. Julia Garner, who I've personally not seen in anything else I can think of, to me really resembled a young Virginia Madsen in Candyman. Not just looks, but exuding this resilience and courage in the face of unspeakable evil. I thought Matilda Firth, who played the daughter, was also pretty good. And I can't help but wonder if there's a cheeky nod from Leigh Whannell, as her character's name is Ginger, and upon hearing her name in the film, immediately made me think of Ginger Snaps. But regardless, all three are pretty solid, with Christopher Abbott totally selling on the idea of a man tortured at first by his past, and then by the literal physical metamorphosis of changing into a creature. His eyes alone definitely portray the inner turmoil, something I also found watching him in Sanctuary and Piercings. Definitely an actor that I'm interested to see whatever he does next. Now, while this is not as strong and as impressive as Whannell's last feature, The Invisible Man, I think this is more than a worthy enough addition, and as far as I'm concerned, he hasn't really put a foot wrong. Everything that I've seen of his I've liked so far, and there's still a few that I haven't, including some of the latter Insidious films, as well as Dead Silence, which I believe he wrote as well. He's definitely someone that I'm always interested to watch whatever he's doing. I think it's more than worth your time. Whether you think it's worth seeing at the cinema or not, I mean, you could argue pretty much most films are worth seeing at the cinema, but I think for the visual and sound design alone, it's worth seeing, but maybe see it as a matinee. Anyway, that's all for this review. I hope you enjoyed it. There will be some more reviews coming out over the coming days and weeks. And on that final note, I will see you guys in the next video. Thanks for watching.